Monsoon rains triggered massive flooding in Pakistan's Punjab province.
The government has announced an international appeal for help as floods have caused a catastrophe of epic scale. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
Severe Typhoon Florita leaves 3 deaths and 4 injuries, according to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC. The country expects its importation of 150,000 metric tons of sugar to arrive in November. The House Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms approves a substitute bill postponing barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections to December 2023. The war launched by Russia in Ukraine reaches 6 months. And a U.S. jury awards $31 million damages over Kobe Bryant's crash photos.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, has reported 3 deaths from the onslaught of severe tropical storm Florita. In its latest report, NDRRMC confirmed 2 fatalities, one from Cagayan Valley and one from Cordillera Administrative Region. Authorities are still validating the death of an individual from the Bicol region. 4 injuries were reported from Cagayan Valley and Bicol region. The heavy rains and strong winds unleashed by the tropical cyclone triggered landslides and flooding in Luzon. Meanwhile, the NDRRMC also reported that 11,953 families or 47,169 people in Ilocos Region, Cagayan Valley, Calabarzon, Karsh, and Metro Manila were affected by Florita. 1,726 families stayed in evacuation centers, while 1,062 households sought temporary shelter in the homes of their relatives and friends. According to NDRRMC, 30 damaged houses were reported in northern Luzon. 21 roads and 13 bridges in Ilocos Region, Ilocos or Calabarzon, Bicol Region, and Karsh remains impassable. The agency said 4.8 million pesos worth of food packs, hygiene kits, and relief assistance have been provided to Florita-affected communities.
The Sugar Regulatory Administration, or SRA, is eyeing November 15 for the arrival of the 150,000 metric tons of refined sugar imported by the country as a supplement to the country's sugar supply. Acting SRA Administrator David John Thaddeus Alba said the importation is under Sugar Order Number 2 that the agency has earlier recommended to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Alba explained that importation will be held in November as the agency expects its refineries to be operational during the same period. Alba assured that he is in communication with the sectors intended to benefit from the sugar importation to identify how it will be distributed.
The House Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms has approved the substitute bill seeking the postponement of barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections from December 2022 to the first Monday of December 2023. Voting 11-0, the panel consolidated more than 30 bills on the postponement of the Barangay SK polls, which was originally scheduled on December 5, 2022. House Committee Chair Representative Maximo Dalog Jr. said substitute bill will be sent to those or to the House Committee on Appropriations after its approval by the House Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms. Dalog said the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, is waiting for guidance from Congress since the poll body is set to start ballot printing next month. Meanwhile, Kabataan Party List Representative Raul Manuel said the delay in the Barangay SK polls is antithetical, or the democratic right of every Filipino to choose their own leaders. He added that the postponement is against Article 4 of the 1987 Constitution and no excuses can overpower the supreme right and basic exercise of freedom, which is right to suffrage. Aside from moving the scheduled date of the elections, the bill also provided that current barangay and SK officials would keep their posts in a holdover capacity until the next officers are elected. Winners of the barangay and SK polls in December 2023 will begin their term on January 1, 2024 for a period of 3 years.
Malacanang has announced that 17.6 million Philippine identification or PhilIDs or PhilID cards are set to be delivered to registrants nationwide. The Office of the Press Secretary said the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, has turned over the 17.6 million printed PhilIDs to the Philippine Postal Corporation, or PhilPost. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles said the PSA is confident that it could meet the year-end target of releasing 30.1 million printed national IDs and the 19.9 million digital ID cards, which are printable. The PSA's goal is to issue a total of 50 million PhilIDs by the end of 2022. In his State of the Nation address, or SONA, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the national ID will play a significant role in the country's digital transformation.
At today's Senate hearing, senators can't help but castigate the deputy officials over the procurement of overpriced laptop units. Mian Corvera has the details.
Senators grilled the officials of the Department of Education at today's hearing on the alleged 2.4 billion pesos overpriced laptops. The DepEd defended the nearly 4 billion pesos procurement contract at the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee's hearing. The DepEd said they passed the obligation to the procurement service of the Department of Budget and Management because they lack time. They also pointed out that the funds provided for during the 6 months that was given last December 2020 under the Bayanihan Law cannot be put to use. Briones added that she has no knowledge of the contract because she delegated it to the other officials.
Yes, we have a bank, but we don't have a big enough bank to specialize in a 6-month plan to provide computers at a time of a lockdown, at a time when chips were not produced, at a time of COVID, and the supply was very, very limited.
When Senator Francis Tolentino scrutinized the contract, he said it was not examined clearly. He further questioned why there was a provision in the MOA for the DOH and the FDA.
Ano po kinalaman ng laptop kay Administrator Domingo ng FDA? Palagay ko po wala. So, ang nakikita ko po rito, nabulaga po yung sa pagmamadali yung mga abogado, inadapt na lang yung dekahon pro forma na kontrata, nakalimutan alisin yung FDA. Mawalang galang na po, ayokong bagitin to. Parang hindi na pag-aralan ng abogado.
Yusek Alain Pasqua, who was one of the signatories in the contract, was also asked why he consented to buy a more expensive laptop and not follow their recommendation.
Kung bakit nagbago, sino nag-approve at paano nangyari ito, bakit biglang nag-jack up ang presyo. Kaya gusto ko malaman talaga sinong pumayag, sinong nag-approve na from 32,000 gawing 58,000. Yun lang kasimple. Pag matapos natin, wala lang investigasyon.
From a budget of 35,046 pesos per laptop, the price went up to 58,300 pesos. This resulted in a purchase of 39,583 laptop units instead of 68,500 laptop units. Senator Alan Peter Cayetano drew a question saying if Pasqua is incompetent or he has a cohort in the PSDBM.
Ito yung presyo ng pinabili mo na entry level para sa mga teachers. So is it incompetence o kakuntsaba ka ng mga taga-DBMPS? Inapprove nyo 58,000 kapresyo ng MacBook Air. Paano mo naman i-approve ang entry level na kapresyo ng MacBook Air? Huwag na tayong paikot-ikot dito. Inapprove nyong presyo ng high-end. DBS PM mismo ang nag-approve 45,000 mid-level.
Hindi ako nag-approve, Your Honor. Hindi ko sinabing ako ang nag-approve. Ang sinabi namin, nagbigay ang PSDBM ng action slip
And you
na
said yes.
kinongker ng ICTS.
And then you concur.
Hindi ko sinabing ako ang nag-confirm.
However, Pascua stressed that his name was not in the contract but he was refuted by the senators.
Robots, kung ano sinabi, comply, comply, okay, next, comply, ganun lang pala. And then you present this as a market survey or market analysis. Nami-mislead tuloy lahat ng tao. Akala namin may effort kayong pinuhos dyan. Wala.
Lumalabas ngayon, kagaya ng sinasabi ni Senator Cayetano, dalawa lang kayo nagpirmahan dito, hawak ko yung dokumento, a certain Abram Abanil, na nandiyan sa harap, pakitaas yung kamay mo. Kayo lang ang dalawa nag-aprobahan ito.
Pascua was also scolded by the Senate when he raised his voice at them.
Wala akong pangalan dyan, Your Honor.
Putaasan ng boses mo.
Yes, Your Honor.
Kaya tayo may microphone dito. You don't have the right to elevate the modulation of your voice. Naririnig ka namin, huwag mo kaming sigawan.
My apologies, Your Honor.
Meanwhile, former PSDBM Director Yusuf Lloyd Christopher Lau reasoned out that they based prices of the laptops on their market research. Lau said during that time, there was a price hike in the sale of laptops due to inadequate stocks brought by online classes and work from home.
Tumaas po kasi ang demand ng laptop on the year 2020. Kasi naubos yung laptop ng PSDBM, our mid-range, high-end, and the lightweight, pati yung mga desktop natin naubusan kasi binibili lahat ng agencies, pati din sa market. Kasi I was asking the supplier then, kasi we can do repeat orders. On 2020, I was asking, give me repeat order. And they were saying, we cannot give repeat order, work in the office, tumaas yung work from home. So everybody was buying laptop, pati yung schools, and everybody was going online.
Cayetano said that clearly there is a syndicate at the PSDBM and it's time to abolish the agency. The Senate summoned the Bids and Awards Committee of DepEd and PSDBM officials who approved the procurement contract at the next hearing.
Halatang maraming lokohan and hindi talaga ginamit ang common sense. No? Why do I say this? Meron naman tayo cellphone, pwede mo naman i-google. Pwede mo naman kunin yung telepono para tanungin kung magkano ang laptop. No? Napakalayo naman ng 35,000 sa 58,000. Pangalawa, isang buwan pa lang, bumili sila ng 45,000 mid-range. No? Ibig sabihin, mas maganda. Tapos, after 1 month, bibili ka ng 58,000. No? At yung initial na reaction ng kasalukuyan DepEd na titignan nila, DBMPS yan. Kaya advice ko, pagka bago kayo, huwag kayong matakot magsabing no comment or iimbestigahan namin. Kasi lumalabas dito, pumayag ang DepEd sa 58,000.
The Senate added that there is a clear connivance between the DepEd and PSDBM to increase the laptop prices. Senators warned members of the PSDBM are certain to be held accountable for milking the government agencies. This is Mean Corvera reporting from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The majority of the COVID-19 cases are mild, but experts reminded individuals with health conditions to be careful as they are the most vulnerable to acquire the virus. On Wednesday, the country logged more than 3,500 new COVID-19 infections, according to the Department of Health. Nadine Aguilar has the full story.
The Philippines logged more than 3,500 new COVID-19 infections on Wednesday. Out of the new infections, Metro Manila has accounted for the 1,212 new cases. The Department of Health said the country has a total of 3,864,034 cases with 30,240 active cases. the country recorded 50 new deaths. According to the Private Hospitals Association Philippines, or PHAP, most of the COVID-19 cases today are mild cases. But Dr. Jose Rene de Grano, president of PHAP, warned those who are immunocompromised, those who have existing diseases, and those who are not yet fully vaccinated, because they are prone to experience severe to critical conditions.
Ngayon, yun naman pong mga na-admit ng mas padami are the mild cases na incidental COVID lang. And yung pong mga ganon in a few days, na-discharge naman po agad.
Meanwhile, PHAP assured that medical equipment are enough to allocate the needs of private hospitals, especially their patients in critical conditions. Dr. Grano reminded everyone to continuously follow the health protocols.
Kasi dapat po ipagpatuloy natin yung minimum health protocols. Kahit po sabihin natin na mild lang ang symptoms nitong variants ng COVID, ay kailangan po nating yan kasi masyadong highly transmissible po itong ating mga subvariants. At kahit po ngayon po nangyayari pamilya ang na-infeksyon. Madali ang isa ay tuloy-tuloy na po na lahat halos ay na-infeksyon.
Nadine Aguilar, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Next up, conflict between Ukraine and Russia reaches 6-month mark. McDonald's stormed and looted by a gang of 50 youths. And why did Itaru Nakamura quit as chief of Japan's national police? Find out when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Together natin inaalam ang mga balita.
Pangmalakasan ang ating power kapag tayo ay together.
Nakikipagkulitan kasama kayo together.
Together tayo sa lungkot at saya sa bawat umaga. Isang taon na tayo together, mga kara!
Ngayong linggo sa Cine Throwback.
Tingnan mo, pwede ka naman palang mabait hindi masungit. Tsaka na lang pag magaling ka na.
Are you staying for dinner?
Oh, she was just on her way out.
Ah, ganun ba? Well, goodbye then. Bakit ka tumatawa? Ano nakakatuwa?
Wala, ikaw. Gusto ka na mami ko.
Magtira ka kahit na isang patak para sa magiging asawa mo.
Do you like me?
Siguro.
Ngayong linggo, alas 12 ng tanghali. Dito lang sa Net 25.
Panalo tayo pag together. Walang talo pag together. Let's get together. Sa Net 25.
You're still watching Mata ng Agila International. As the war in Ukraine reaches the 6-month mark, the Secretary General of the United Nations described the half year of conflict as devastating. Antonio Guterres says the consequences of the war are being felt worldwide, with people struggling to pay more for food and fuel. Guterres also worries about military activity around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant that has been occupied by Russian troops.
And about the situation in and around Europe's largest nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia. The warning lights are flashing. Any actions that might endanger the physical integrity, safety or security of the nuclear plant are simply unacceptable. Any further escalation of the situation could lead to self-destruction. The security of the plant must be ensured, and the plant must be re-established as purely civilian infrastructure.
Meanwhile, in Ukraine, the country's national flag and the flag of the Ukrainian Infantry Brigade flew high over Kyiv as the country observed Independence Day. It was 31 years ago that Ukraine declared its independence from the then Soviet Union. Ukraine's celebrations were subdued as the country also marked the halfway mark in its conflict with Russia. However, there were no public events to mark the occasion. President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country was reborn when it was invaded by Russia 6 months ago, and he warns Russia might step up its attacks. The day was marred by a Russian rocket strike on a Ukrainian train station that left at least 15 people dead and dozens of others injured.
A massive blaze broke in a mall in Donetsk after Ukrainian forces launched shelling in the region. Roman Kosarev of RT News has the details.
We're driving along with the Donetsk Fire Department to a supermarket that was struck early in the morning here in Donetsk. Fumes of smoke can be seen from every part of the city. Apparently, fire department from all over the town are there on the scene at the moment. Firefighters are still fighting the blaze at this supermarket. You can see plumes of smoke are still everywhere. Now, this supermarket, or a mega market as they call it here, sells everything from food items to medicine to anything else that the locals might need. I myself picked up humanitarian aid from this supermarket numerous times in order to deliver it to places here in Donetsk People's Republic where they need it. Now, the firefighters just asked me to move over just a bit in case, just to put us out of danger, if you will. Now, at the moment, local authorities are reporting that there were several strikes against this supermarket. Right now, it looks like it's completely destroyed. As for the situation around this area, now, there isn't a single military structure here, so it looks like it's obvious that the target was civilian infrastructure. The strike took place at 10 o'clock in the morning. The supermarket was open at 8 o'clock. Now, this place is very popular among local residents. As you can see, the building is still ablaze as firefighters are trying to put it out. They told us to be careful because the roof can collapse at any time. Employees of the supermarket are now trying to salvage as much of merchandise as possible. At the moment, they can't even speak to us. They can't even give us the account because there's still quite a lot to be done. Roman Kosarev, RT, Donetsk People's Republic.
The former chairman of Ukraine's parliament, Dmitry Razumkov, has stated that Kyiv has the right to confiscate Russian gas that flows to the EU through Ukraine. The gas that is transported through the territory of Ukraine is Russian. To the border with Europe, it is Russian gas. And if we act in accordance with the law, we should confiscate it, he said in a video posted on Facebook. Kyiv then could sell the fuel to Europe and use the proceeds to address its financial shortfalls, Razumkov suggested. It's not the first time Razumkov made that argument, stating in July that since Ukraine is a transit country, they must fulfill obligations to their international partners. Surplus Russian gas should be confiscated in accordance with the law and pumped into Kyiv's storages.
Taiwan announced plans for a record increase to its defense budget after huge military drills by China earlier this month sent tensions between the two to their highest in decades. Taipei has proposed a defense budget of $13.7 billion for next year, up 13% year-on-year, pending parliamentary approval. An additional special budget will also be created specifically to acquire new fighter jets and other projects to boost naval and air capabilities, according to the top budgeting agency in a statement. Premier Su Tseng-chang said to protect national security, the overall defense budget for next year will reach a record high of 586.3 billion new Taiwan dollars. The bolstered military budget was unveiled after Beijing staged unprecedented exercises around Taiwan in retaliation for U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taipei. But even before this month's drills, Beijing had increased military pressure on Taiwan in recent years, particularly with incursions into the island's air defense identification zone. Meanwhile, American and Taiwanese strategists have increasingly pushed Taipei to adopt a porcupine strategy of asymmetric warfare, a strategy that emphasizes purchasing comparatively inexpensive and mobile weapon systems, as well as training soldiers and civilian reservists to fight behind enemy lines.
Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid says Western powers must stop talks to renew a nuclear deal with Iran that would fill its coffers and undermine Middle East stability. Lapid says the deal would give Iran $100 billion a year, but the money will not build schools nor hospitals. He says the money will only be used to spread terror around the globe.
This money will fund the Revolutionary Guards, it will fund the Basij, who oppresses the Iranian people. It will fund more attacks on American bases in the Middle East. It will be used to strengthen Hezbollah, Hamas, and Islamic Jihad. This money will go to the people who are trying to kill authors and thinkers in New York. And of course, it will be used to strengthen Iran's nuclear program. Israel is not against any agreement. We are against this agreement because it is a bad one, because it cannot be accepted as it is written right now. In our eyes, it does not meet the standards set by President Biden himself, preventing Iran from becoming a nuclear state. Good morning.
Itaru Nakamura, head of Japan's National Police Agency, announced his resignation today after an investigation confirmed shortcomings in the security plans for assassinated former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. There were shortcomings in the security plans and the risk assessments on which they were based, and direction from the field commander was insufficient. Nakamura said that to reporters. He pointed out that the root of this problem lies in the limitations of the current system, which has been in place for years, in which local police bear sole responsibility for providing security. Nakamura also said he would take responsibility for the failings and step down from his post as police chief. Abe was shot and killed on the campaign trail on July 8 in the Nara region. Abe was Japan's best-known politician and longest-serving prime minister, but security was comparatively light as he delivered a stump speech on a street in the western region. Local police in the area have already acknowledged undeniable flaws in security for the former leader.
Thousands of Rohingya refugees held Genocide Remembrance Day rallies across a huge network of camps in Bangladesh, marking 5 years since fleeing a military offensive in Myanmar. The refugees staged rallies in many of the camps, holding banners, shouting slogans, and demanding a safe return to their home state of Rakhine in western Myanmar. Many shouted slogans also demanding the repeal of a 1982 law that stripped them of their citizenship in Myanmar, where they are widely seen as foreigners. In 2017, more than 300 of Rohingya villages were burnt down to ashes. They streamed over the border to escape the onslaught, which is now the subject of a landmark genocide case at the UN Stop Court. Today, there are nearly 1 million Rohingya, half of them under 18, in rickety huts in a network of camps in southeastern Bangladesh, where the mud lanes regularly become rivers of sewage during monsoon rains.
A group of around 50 youths ransacked a McDonald's in the city center area of the central English city of Nottingham. Take a look. In a shocking footage, youths were seen jumping over the counter and stealing food and drinks from the fast food restaurant. Police said that the footage appears to have been filmed by members of the gang of youths themselves, perhaps to brag about their exploits. In a report, 20 members of the group remained in the restaurant, threatening and abusing staff members. But so far, there have been no arrests made in connection to the incident. A spokesperson for Nottinghamshire Police said they are treating this incident very seriously and they are now working with the Plumber Street McDonald's, carrying out CCTV inquiries to find those responsible. The incident comes 1 week after another gang of youths looted American candy stores and other shops in a popular shopping area of central London. London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who has faced criticism since the start of his tenure for being soft on crime, has attempted to shift the blame for the crime wave, citing the hot weather and the cost of living crisis as excuses for the deadly scenes witnessed in his city. Later on, mata ng Agila International. Pakistan flood victims plea for help. U.S. helps college graduates burdened by student loans. And Iglesia Ni Cristo's Care for Humanity extends help or aid to people in need in British Columbia. Catch these details when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Running a business is part and parcel of our daily lives. Mula sa sari-sari store ng kapitbahay, sa motor supply shop sa kanto, sa mga nagtitinda ng masasarap na pagkain at marami pang iba. They are called micro, small, and medium enterprises, the backbone of many economies. Today, let us attempt to have a closer look on the path to digitization and digitalization of MSMEs, and let's learn on how it can flourish businesses with our guest, Arlene Martinez, the founding president of Asia Council for Small Business Philippine Chapter.
When you open up and embrace digital technology and you become present online, ang pinaka-advantage po niyan is that hindi mo nilalagyan ng cap ang growth or revenue growth mo. Your potential to grow is not just 10-folds, 100-folds, but it can be 1,000-folds.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m. This portion.
We now welcome you back to Mata ng Agila International. Record monsoon rains were causing a catastrophe of epic scale, Pakistan's climate change minister said, announcing an international appeal for help in dealing with floods that have killed more than 800 people since June. The annual monsoon is essential for irrigating crops and replenishing lakes and dams across the Indian subcontinent. But each year, it also brings a wave of destruction. Heavy rain continued to pound much of Pakistan, with authorities reporting more than a dozen deaths, including 9 children, in the last 24 hours.
ये हम लोग आज 4-5 दिन हो गए यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं ना तो किसी हुकूमती एहलकार ने हमें पूछा है ना ही हुकूमत की तरफ से हमें कोई पूछा गया ना रिलीफ मिला है हमारे बच्चे भूख से मर रहे हैं और हमारे मवेशी भूख से मर रहे हैं बीमारी फैली हुई है मच्छर हैं कोई भी नहीं आता कभी हम लोग कहाँ जाएं
A woman named Ganzadi told AFP that it has been raining for a month now, and the only goat they had got drowned in the flood too. There is nothing left to them, and they are only lying along the road as Meanwhile, Climate Change Minister Sherry Rayman said authorities would launch an appeal for international help once assessment was complete. Pakistan is 8th on a list of countries deemed most vulnerable to extreme weather caused by climate change, according to the Global Climate Risk Index compiled by environmental NGO German Watch.
China is baking in a heat wave, and it is threatening the country's autumn harvest. Crops are being stressed by record high temperatures and a drought that has left the land parched. In the cities, people are flocking to shopping malls and subway stations, seeking relief from the heat. It is the hottest summer on record, with temperatures reaching as high as 45 degrees Celsius, which left cities struggling to cope with the demand for electricity as people crank up their air conditioning in an effort to stay cool. Some cities turned off outdoor decorative lighting. The city of Sichuan imposed industrial power cuts after water levels dropped at key hydroelectric plants. The heat is also drying up the critical Yangtze River, where water flows on its main trunk is 50% lower than average over the past 5 years.
People in southern Iraq are trying to cope with record high temperatures and a water shortage. Thermometers in the country are displaying temperatures as high as 50 degrees Celsius. Adding to the problem for people living in villages in this part of the country is the lack of drinking water. People are abandoning their homes. One village that once had 50 houses now only has 10. They are leaving the region for the cities, hoping to find jobs and, more importantly, water. For those who stayed behind, they have to rely on deliveries of water by tank truck as water levels in the Euphrates River have dropped in recent months. Farmers hit by the drought also stage a protest in front of a local water department office demanding the provision of drinking water for their region.
Port workers at Britain's biggest container port joins various sectors who launched a work stoppage to demand an increase in pay as skyrocketing inflation intensifies the country's cost of living crisis. Ariane Celestino from the UK files this report.
Workers at Britain's biggest container port, Felixstowe, on Sunday began an 8-day strike over pay in the latest industrial action as decades-high inflation intensifies the country's cost of living crisis. Nearly 2,000 unionized employees at the port in eastern England, including crane drivers, machine operators, and stevedores, started their walkout Sunday morning in the first strike at Felixstowe since 1989. It comes amid stoppages over pay and working conditions across various UK industries, with railway workers just the latest to strike on Thursday and Saturday this week. Postal workers plan a 4-day strike later this month. Telecoms giant BT will face its first stoppage in decades, while Amazon warehouse staff, criminal lawyers, and refuse collectors are among the others staging walkouts. Pay hike demands are driven by inflation, which hit a 40-year high above 10% last month, as soaring food and energy prices hurt millions. The Bank of England has forecast it will top 13% this year, tipping the British economy into a deep and long recession. The Unite Union representing the striking Felixstowe staff said the stoppage will have a big impact at the port, which handles around 4 million containers a year from 2,000 ships. The union wants pay rises for its members at or near inflation, arguing the docks are enormously profitable. From London, United Kingdom, this is Ariane Celestino for Mantanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Good news for American college students or graduates burdened with massive student loans. President Joe Biden says the government will forgive $10,000 in outstanding federal student loans as he promised that more help is available for students from poorer families.
In addition, students who come from low-income families, which allowed them to qualify to receive a Pell Grant, will have their debt reduced $20,000. Both of these targeted actions are for families who need it the most, working and middle-class people hit especially hard during the pandemic, making under $125,000 a year.
The help falls short of what some Democrats wanted, complete forgiveness. It's estimated the average student owes $25,000 upon graduation and may spend years or even decades paying it back.
Encouraging more farmers to transition to organic production, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announces millions of dollars in funding to assist the initiative. Crisan Fragada reports.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA, announces its $300 million investment, including American Rescue Plan funds, in a new organic transition initiative. The initiative aims to help build new and better markets and streams of incomes for farmers and producers. The FDA says organic production allows producers to hold a unique position in the marketplace. This means they take home a greater share of the food dollar. USDA says the number of non-certified organic farms that actively transition to organic production has dropped by nearly 71% since 2008. Through the initiative, USDA hopes to reverse the trend. The initiative will open opportunities for new and beginning farmers and expand direct consumer access to organic foods through increased production. U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says through this multi-phase, multi-agency initiative, they are expanding USDA's support of organic farmers to help them with every step of their transition as they work to become certified and secure markets for their products. Crisan Fragada, Washington, D.C., Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Iglesia ni Cristo's Care for Humanity has inspired even leaders of other religions in its effort to help the sectors hit by hard times. The recent Care for Humanity project of the church distributed care packages to refugees, international students, and families in need in British Columbia, Canada. Janina de la Paz Rufino has this story. Let's watch.
New to life in Canada, Vandula is striving to adjust to the way things are in British Columbia.
Actually, we just came to Canada before Sri Lanka. I'm a pastor.
He recollects the turmoil that his people have had to face back home.
It's going very hard time in Sri Lanka, very hard time. All things are getting expensive. Going a lot of bankrupt in Sri Lanka. We don't have gas, fuel is low, and it's a terrible time. The government is struggling right now.
His desire was to help those in need, but he could only do so much.
As a minister of the gospel in Sri Lanka, I have a lot of compassion for my people. We did a lot of prayers and helping hands. Even I feel a lot of loneliness.
That is why today, accepting an invitation to attend a special outreach event, he was greatly inspired to see a church that aimed to bring much-needed assistance to many people in need in this community.
In this very special activity
the event, a Care for Humanity event under the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, the outreach arm of the Church of Christ, whose aim was to reach out to those hit by hard times. Bringing members from around the ecclesiastical district of British Columbia at the chapel compound in Burnaby, together they invited guests and other residents in need of assistance.
I saw that you are given that big amount, right? And recognize the society need. I saw their faces are very bright because they came here representing many people, those who are needy. It's a very effective thing, to do right way.
Putting together over 1,500 bags of non-perishable and canned goods, these care packages went out to refugees, international students, and families in much need.
I was really excited, and I could talk a lot of people, and I could talk a lot of another country nationality people. So it's a great memory for me. They are very kind. Now I'm learning about the Church of Christ, and I want to continue to study Bible.
In addition to care packages, financial aid was also given to the organizations within British Columbia dedicated to assisting marginalized groups, displaced families, and others needing a help up. Among recipients were New Westminster and Vancouver-based organizations, the Elizabeth Fry Society, Rain City Housing, Atira Women's Society, and the Lookout Housing and Health Society.
We are honored to be invited.
cycle of poverty, addiction, mental health, homelessness, and crime for women, girls, and children at risk. Thank you so much to the Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo E. Manolo, and thank you to the President, Brother Lucerio P. Santos IV.
Among other attendees was Raj Kuhar, a Legislative Assembly member of British Columbia.
This church has become a symbol of care. You know, this church has shown the leadership, care for humanity. It's not just a slogan. You have done that in practical terms. You have shown that leadership, taking care of those people.
A service that has been recognized time and time again by public servants and government officials around the world and also in Canada. This time by Peter Julian, member of the Parliament, giving to the Church of Christ a special recognition for its continuous effort in reaching out to their fellow men.
There are so many people around the world experiencing hardship. 1 out of 10 live in poverty here in British Columbia. So when Brother Eduardo Manalo gave the mandate, the CEO of the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, Brother Glicerio P. Santos IV, right away took the action, gave us the instruction to talk to the district ministers here in Canada for us to be able to come up with an action plan so that the people who are in need here in Canada will be able to receive the support, the care, and the love of the Iglesia Ni Cristo. Not only that, the executive minister of the church, Brother Eduardo Manalo, wants to reciprocate the love, the recognitions being given by the Canadian government.
When we heard that there will be Care for Humanity activity in our district, all the brethren were really happy. It is truly a blessing for our district. All the brethren in this district are really willing to help and always willing to unite with the church administration. This will not be the last. We will continue to visit them. We will continue to look after them. We will continue to extend the help of the church administration as long as we can, because they really need help.
I am so grateful, and I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank the Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo Manalo, and I want to thank the Foundation President, Brother Glicerio Santos. Lookout is grateful, and everyone we get to help will be grateful for this donation, so thank you.
This is not a small thing. This is a huge thing because we are giving with the love of Christ. We are not accept anything from them, right? When you give that free hands, it's really touching their hearts. It's an actual love language, giving.
With all that Vandula was able to experience and learn about the Church of Christ, he leaves with a sense of joy and amazement, and continuing his pursuit for the true faith.
And I went to the Bible study. Amazing. Excellent, clear teaching Bible study. And I learned a lot of things, very brand new way. My faith was increased. I'm so strong because of the Bible study. I became a Bible student.
With just one more stop to go, the Care for Humanity tour being conducted across Canada has touched the lives of many, extending aid to those in need as well as introducing them to the love found inside the Church of Christ. Janina De La Paz Trufino for Matana Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming up, Sony hikes PS5 prices in some markets. U.S. consumer spares.
Thank you very much.
As jury awards $31 million worth of damages over Kobe Bryant's crash photos. And a famous Winston Churchill portrait was stolen and replaced with a fake one. Matana Agila International will return, so stay tuned.
Balik tayo sa mga kwentuhan, mga bidarkadas. Samahan niyo po kaming kilalanin ang creative mind ni diorama artist Noda Muñoz.
Gusto kong ipakita yung pagkatao ko gamit yung mga creation na binubuo ko. Yun ang magiging brain therapy ko para labanan ang depression ko.
Ang kanyang graduation tally, 60 awards and citations na hindi 16, 60. So matindi. Makikilala natin ang ating genius bidarkada sa Bida sa Lives. Bagamat nababalot ng katahimikan ng kanilang mga empleyado, buong lakas namang ipinagmamalaki ng establishment nito na ang kanilang deaf partners are simply awesome individuals.
I want them to feel that there is growth here, that people believe in them.
Siguradong bibilib kayo sa storya ng kanyang unselfish act para matulungan ang mga kababayan niyang nangangailangan.
Ako ay maraming tirang tela sa pananahi. Gawin ko kaya yung face mask. Pagkatahi ko, ipinamigay po niya.
So ako po ang inyong host, Aga Bulak, na lagi nagpapaalala sa inyo, you can be the hero that someone needs.
Anong tawag sa'yo pag natalo ka? Berlus. Titigan mo to, makakalimutan mo si Junjun.
Sino si Junjun?
Kita mo nakalimutan niya.
Susut ang bola, tatakbo, kukunin kung bilog or eke dun sa square. Kung sino ang unang makabuo ng line. 3 points!
Abangan nyo ang sabi or Showbiz Artista Blind Item! Dito lang sa Quezon City!
Sony's PlayStation 5 is already notoriously difficult to find, and the popular consoles manufacturer said that it will also become more expensive for gamers in many parts of the world. Sony Interactive Entertainment has recommended raising the console's retail price in Europe, the United Kingdom, Japan, China, Australia, Mexico, and Canada, the company's top official Jim Ryan said. U.S. consumers will be spared from the hikes, Ryan said, without providing further explanation. The price rises will see a PS5 digital edition retail in Europe for €449.99, up from €399.99. The same console will be sold in the UK for £389.99, up from £359.99, and in Japan for 49,478 yen, up from 43,978 yen. Sony blamed high global inflation rates as well as adverse currency trends for the price increases.
A jury has awarded Kobe Bryant's widow and a co-plaintiff $31 million in damages over graphic photos taken at the site of the helicopter crash that killed the basketball star and 8 others. Los Angeles County was named in the lawsuit. Sheriff's deputies and firefighters at the scene of the crash took photos of the carnage, which claims the life of the Los Angeles Lakers legend and his 13-year-old daughter. Some of them showed the pictures to members of the public. The jury ordered the county to pay $16 million to Vanessa Bryant and $15.5 million to Chris Chester, whose wife Sarah also died in the crash. The award is compensation for past and future suffering. Bryant's wife wept while the verdict was read and left court without speaking to reporters. A famous portrait of Winston Churchill by photographer Yusuf Karsh was stolen from Fairmont Chateau Laurier Hotel in Ottawa, Canada. It was a hotel staff that discovered that the portrait was fake after noticing that the frame on the photograph did not match the other 5 portraits hanging in the room, which were all taken by the same photographer. The hotel immediately reached out to Jerry Fielder, the overseer of the Karsh estate, to report the unfortunate discovery. And Fielder confirmed that the portrait is indeed a counterfeit based on the signature. It is not clear yet when the heist took place, but the Ottawa police is now investigating the matter.
Let's take a look back on some historical events that happened on this day, August 25. In 1944, Paris was liberated after more than 4 years of Nazi occupation during World War II. In 1930, Sir Sean Connery was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. He was the first actor to portray fictional British secret agent James Bond on film, starring in 7 Bond films between 1962 and 1983. And in 2012, U.S. astronaut Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, died at the age of 82 after complications from heart surgery.
It's almost the weekend, and to help you go through this week, here's a quote from author Roy T. Bennett. Do what is right, not what is easy, nor what is popular. It's hard to do the right thing.
Yeah, but you gotta aim high.
That's right. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I'm CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.